This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.
His new memoir, Rob Halford, Confess, the autobiography, as I hold it up right here. He is the metal god. In fact, he has trademarked that moniker. And Rob, biopics like Bohemian Rhapsody, obviously awesome. Elton's Rocket Man, amazing, really cool. But if there was ever a story that screams biopic and the bloodiest, blood-curdling metal scream ever, it is the story of your life in this book. I mean, has somebody reached out to you? I'm sure they have, right?
Jonathan, you know me like so many people know me. You've known me forever, right? You've known this guy, this persona, the metal god, for so many years. And this is all about the other sides of me and parts of my life that I'm now ready to share and confess. And yeah, it's been funny this over the past few weeks of talking about Confess, that there's been many cases where it's been suggested that a biop, is it a biop?
Biopic,
is possibly in the works. I haven't got a clue. I haven't even thought about it, man. You know, how about you, Jonathan? Who can you imagine? Who can you imagine portraying the metal god from his earliest moments?
Brad Pitt. Come on. This
Gandalf look guy. Brad Pitt. Are you kidding me? Wouldn't that be insane?
That would be insane. Well, he's not doing the Tiger King, so we know that. Yeah. Nicolas Cage is doing that, so maybe he's available.
You never know. Well, I'm sure you know how things filter through our media grapevine. This combo might get back to Brad Pitt's people, but wow, that would be something special, wouldn't it?
So, did you finish this book during the lockdown, or was it almost already completed, like in winter?
Started with the one-on-one with Ian Gittings, my guy, who this book wouldn't be made without him. We started it last summer in Phoenix. He flew over to Phoenix from my neck of the woods. Actually, he's a local guy. I couldn't believe the way life works. He actually was born and raised in the same area as I was, in the West Midlands. It's crazy, man. So he had a real insight into my early childhood, you know. So we started last summer in Phoenix. We had a lot of get-togethers here in the kitchen at the house, because that's where the good stuff happens, in the kitchen, right?
That's right.
So we got together here, and then we did a lot of work over in my house in Walsall in the kitchen. And we accumulated something over like 50 hours, 60 hours of one-on-one interviews. And out of that, the book came together. So yeah, all before the lockdown. You know, he left probably just as the lockdown was kicking in, if my memory serves me correctly, because we finished the writing, and then we had the first pre-writing sessions for the next album in the early part of this year. And then we were going to be in a break, and I came over here just as the lockdown kicked in. So that's kind of like the timeline as I can recall.
You know, you're talking about the West Midlands, and you know what I love about this book is I've always been a fan of languages and dialects and things like that. Especially, I saw that video on YouTube of a guy that produced a video of YouTube. And the sort of the mouse or whatever hovers over every part of England. And as it changes to a new area of England, his accent changes to that territory.
Yeah.
And you're from the West Midlands, but you actually, in describing conversations that you're having in the book, you phonetically type out the Black Country accent, or I can't even do it. But I found that so fascinating to do, because it really puts you into that conversation.
Well, it's like the great characters, the great character in everybody's voices. You know, where I'm from, you've literally only got to go a few miles, right? And then the accent shifts. But that's no different to around New York State, Jersey. You know, you cross the bridge, you're in Jersey, different accent. You live Manhattan, you go into Brooklyn, different. Go over to Queens, different. Go over to Long Island, different. It's beautiful. It gives us all this identity, but capturing the essence of who I am in my voice was difficult. That's why Ian had the great idea to kind of try and write it out as I sound, which is kind of difficult. Somebody like me is called a yam yam back in my part of the world.
Was it Walsall, right?
Yam yam. Yeah, it's a black country accent, the black country as it's called, way back from Victorian days because of the coal and the steel industry, and everything was covered in soot and dirt and grime, and he got this nickname, the black country. So Ian did a magnificent job putting that inflection into the words of the book.
Robert Plant, also from the same area, I believe. Planty.
Yeah, John Bonham. Yeah.
And you guys actually opened for Led Zeppelin on their last ever U.S. show. Is that correct?
I believe it was. Yes. It was a beautiful event for Priest. You know, the story goes that we'd finished a massive tour of the whole of the United States. He just went on and on and on. And in those days, we were doing 5, 6, 7 shows a week, man. We were slugging it out, creating this wonderful fan base with our American metal maniacs that has never diminished.
Hey, you were like 20, so you got the word tired isn't even in your vocabulary.
No. So we finished that big tour, and before we finished, we had a call from Robert saying Zeppelin are doing 2 days at the Oakland Stadium down the green, produced by Bill Graham. He would love you guys to play. So you can't say no to something like that. But rather than go all the way back to the UK just for barely 2 weeks, we decided to plunk ourselves down in some Fleabag motel by a freeway with a green pea soup. Was it a swimming pool? It looked like toxic waste. Sitting there, there's a great picture of Glenn trying to get some rays, and there's trucks going by along the freeway. But we stayed there for almost 2 weeks, and then we had these 2 monumental shows at Down the Green, as it was called. And it really helped break Priest along the west coast of America.
You know, going to high school is... You know, we all remember, you're 14, 15, 16, whatever, your hormones are raging. You're trying to figure out, who am I and who are my friends? And am I doing sports? What am I doing? It's just so confusing for any kid, boy or girl. Yeah. So throw on top of that the fact that you, I believe, fairly early on had identified your own sexual identity, right?
Yeah,
And then I just can't imagine, that on top of everything else, being a normal teenager, throw that in, and then going into Priest, heavy metal, predominantly male, macho sort of thing. I mean, it's amazing that you had the strength to pull through that. I mean, I know you were just doing your thing, a kid from Walsall and all that, but I mean, just absolutely amazing to me.
When I read the audio, for Confess, that's when it really started to hit me emotionally, because it's one thing to read the words, but when you speak them out, man, I've been on some of the most incredible journeys and experiences. I'm not unique in the issue of finding your own sexual identity, but certainly the way I tried to balance that in my professional working life as a musician was tough. It was difficult. And we go into detail about how I had to kind of, I couldn't go like to clubs or bars for fear of recognition and that hitting the press and blah, 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 just because the world was a different place then. Of course, the long-term discovery, when I did come out famously on MTV in the early 90s, when I was in the 2 band with Johnny Five, was that it was the most perfect example of the way the metal community is so accepting and inclusive and welcoming people from all over. There are no labels on us in the metal community. We're just all together. I think that's kind of attached to the fact that metal for the longest time was like, in rock and roll, everybody was kicking heavy metal music. Oh man, what is that stuff? It's nothing. It's got no value. It's got no worth. But we knew as metal maniacs This was our music. This is how we expressed ourselves. We loved to listen to this music, be with each other at home, listening to it. Most importantly, going to shows together. Man, please bring back those days as quick as possible. So all of that is discussed in detail in Confess.
And that's what we're talking about with Rob Halford of Judas Priest, the new book, Confess. And I don't want to give away all, because there are so many amazing stories in this book. I want to touch on a few that really stand out to me. Tell me about coming to New York City for the first time. As I recall in the book, you picked quite the year to come to New York City for the first time. Was it 1977?
Something like that, yeah.
The Summer of Sam?
Yeah. Sam was out and about, and man, Times Square in those days, 42nd Street, that was a different New York City. It was, I mean, I love New York. I always have. It's still one of the most incredible places on the planet. But New York in the 70s, especially walking around Times Square as I did, but coming into JFK on a plane from London, the first time ever to get into this great country that so many musicians yearn to step on. You know, I'm now in America, and then, wow, this place has got 3 time zones. You know, it's got, the first thing I did when I got to my hotel room off of Central Park was turn on the radio, and I just went through the dial through all the different radio stations. I couldn't believe it, because back home in the UK, we had like maybe one big institutional radio station, the BBC, which is still there. We didn't have commercial radio. We had these pirate radio ships called Radio Caroline that would broadcast from a ship in international waters. And that was the way I would hear some of my early rock music, because they didn't play it on the BBC. So, man, getting off the plane in JFK and then getting in a cab and then going, that ride is still a thrill to me. Still a thrill. And I sometimes still get the cab, because I just love getting in a cab and going to New York City, and the skyline appears. It's giving me chills now, you know, the skyline, the bridges, the lights, the people. It's all about the people. And then you get into New York City, and then you know the traffic, and cars used to honk like crazy in those days. You can't.
They're still honking.
Yeah, not
lots
so much.
Of sirens,
not
lots
so
of
much.
honking.
Yeah, you get a fine now, as I understand it, but unnecessary honking. But you know, to get to the hotel and then just to sit there and go, man, I'm in America, I'm in New York City. Now what's going to happen to Judas Priest? And of course, everything started to happen to Judas Priest. That was when the band really started to grow exponentially.
Well, that summer of 77, I believe there was a blackout. There was also, you know, the serial killer, Son of Sam, and all this crazy stuff going on. But I'm not sure if it was on that trip or another trip to New York City, you somehow ended up handcuffed to Andy Warhol.
Yeah. That's become an urban legend that's real. Priest had a show at the Palladium. Don't you remember the Palladium, Jonathan?
Oh man, and I miss it too. It's now venue. A college dorm for NYU.
So we had a show at the Palladium, and then our label, CBS Columbia at the time, arranged for an after-show party, kind of a bit of a showcase for our friends in the industry, at a place called the Mud Club. Why it was called the Mud Club, I don't know. Just a real small room with some like steel pillars in the way, and you could hardly see anybody. But you know, we're playing and we're singing. And I just found it's an amazing. Somebody sent me an amazing piece of audio. Somebody secretly recorded that show. It's unbelievable. But anyway, I'm singing and I'm going, who's that guy? That guy looks like Andy Warhol. You know, we did the gig. And as we're doing the gig, Andy's there with his little Olympus camera, and he's taking pictures. I'd love to see those pictures, because Andy kept everything. And finished the show. And then he just wandered over to it. He didn't say anything, because Andy had kind of social difficulties interacting. He was very, very limited with his speech. He just came and stood by me, and I go, Andy, he goes, shakes, oh, this is great, man. I can't believe it's you. And his big thing, Andy, was, oh, really? He used to say, oh, really? A lot to everything. So we just, I'm like, I'm in New York and I'm just Palladium sold out show. Now we're doing this thing and it's Andy Warhol. So I was just fooling around with him and he was looking at all my studs and things. And I got the handcuffs on. I took them off and I playfully put one on his wrist and my wrist. And I go, and he's looking, and I got some bad news, Andy. He goes, oh, really? I go, yeah. I said, I've lost the key. He goes, oh, really?
Again, oh, really?
I hadn't lost the key. But anyway, yeah, what a great story. And then shortly after that, he and I got into a cab and we went to Studio 54. Rob Halford and Andy Warhol in the back of a yellow cab going from the Mud Club up to Studio 54. We both get out of the cab. What was the famous guy that ran Studio 54?
Oh, Steve Rebell.
Yeah, Steve was always there. You can come in, you can't. You can come in, you
Ian
can't.
Schrager,
So,
Steve Rebell. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, we got out the cab, and of course, the velvet rope is straight away because it's Andy Warhol and some other guy. We go straight in, and I never saw him again, which is a great way to end the story. I lost Andy Warhol in Studio 54. That itself could be a biopic.
Or a song.
Imagine. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but there are so many of these incredible stories in Confess.
That is the new book from Rob Halford, Confess. We're speaking with Rob from Judas Priest. You were at Live Aid. You hung out with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, and
that in itself is a movie.
Yeah, I saw him on hanging out, just talking to everybody at the show and on the side of the stage, watching Priest and so on and so forth. And then we're at a private party in Philadelphia, across in some swanky penthouse, and I go in, and there's Jack by himself, just leaning against the wall, and nobody's talking to him because it's Jack Nicholson. So I wander over and I go, hello, Jack. He goes, hey, Rob. Oh, pretty cool. Hey, Rob. I said, did you enjoy the show? Oh, man, it was great. It was great. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. So we had a little bit of a conversation. And then I always remember this drunk guy came up to him holding a big drink. And he goes, Jack, yeah, cuckoo's nest, man, cuckoo's nest. And Jack's just smiling, with his eyebrows and everything. And then he wandered off, and I go, you probably get that a lot. He goes, yeah, too much, but what can you do? So there's a couple of stories there, and so many more.
Here's another one. Here's another one I got for you.
Yeah.
Did you actually steal something out of Ringo Starr's studio, and do you still have it?
I loaned it.
You borrowed it.
It's on loan. I got this kind of perspex. It's called like an obelisk, like a Egyptian kind of looking obelisk. And I was doing my vocals at the studio for British Steel, and in between breaks, I was just sitting there waiting for the next take. And I'm looking around me, and I see all this stuff. There's all these like gold albums and Beatles, silver albums, Beatles presented to Ringo Starr. Oh my God, this stuff's just collecting dust in the corner. And then I saw this obelisk, and I instantly recognized it because it was in this great scene where John Lennon is playing Imagine. And Yoko's walking around opening these white shutters, and the camera pans by, and there's a table with all of these objects on. And one of those objects is this little obelisk, this Perspex obelisk. So I have that on loan. Yoko, if you hear about this, you want it back, I'll be happy to, but I've kept it safe and sound because Lord knows where all that stuff went, because Ringo sold the house shortly after.
Right, yeah. Which he bought originally from John Lennon, I guess, right?
Yeah, you know how stuff gets thrown out? It's junk. It's not junk to me. It's a treasure. So I'm a mad Beatles fan and an even bigger Lennon fan, who, bless him, would have been 80 this year, I think. And sadly, we're coming up, is it the 40th anniversary of his passing? So, yeah, there you go. One more story of many.
And then just a couple more here, Rob. You filled in and sang for Ozzy with Sabbath how many times?
Was it 3 times?
2 or 3 times at least, right?
Yeah, I think twice in Jersey and Camden.
No pressure.
No pressure. And then that one time in Costa Mesa in California, when there was a little bit of a thing going on between camps. So
Right,
Tony called me up 3 days before that show, and can you help us out? And yeah, just give me the list of the songs. So I got all. I know every Sabbath song as it is, but I sang them in the shower. The guys came through Phoenix for a day. We rehearsed. We ran through everything once, and the next day we had 2 shows, 2 back-to-back sellout shows at Costa Mesa in California. No pressure. I love that band. Great band. Great band. Great people.
You shared a helicopter with Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
Where was that?
In Rio. I mean, we're in Rio with the Halford band doing Rock in Rio on tour with Maiden. And I've done Rio before, and it's a great venue, but it's such a schlep to get from the Copacabana beach area to the venue, because traffic in Rio is like any major city. Bitching and moan like a rock star. I don't want to go sit in the van for 3 hours doing this. So Rod Smallwood said, just use my space in the helicopter. And no. Yeah, just do it. I've got to be there all day anyway. Just take my space. So at an allotted time, somebody gets me from the room, takes me downstairs. There's a helicopter in the helipad by the hotel. The guy goes, there's somebody else going to be coming with us. I'm okay, cool. So I'm sitting there waiting. The door opens and in comes Jimmy Page. So I'm like, okay, I'm sitting in the helicopter. I'm going to do Rock in Rio. And now Jimmy Page, my all-time great guitar hero, one of them, a big one, is getting in this helicopter with me, and I'm like a fanboy. I'm still like a fanboy when I meet these great people. I can't control myself because they have such inspiration to us, don't they, Jonathan? So he's sitting by me and he goes, hey, Rob. I go, hey, Jimmy, what's going on? He goes, is it okay if I come with you? I'm like, dude, So, and the short, like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, we were trying to yell to each other and have a conversation. He was there doing some incredible charity work, which he does a lot of, but you don't really hear so much about it. But again, these blessings, they're all blessings.
And we're speaking with Rob Halford about his new book, Confess. And you're mentioning that Jimmy Page story, Rob. And I think what happens to you and to a lot of other people that are lucky enough to meet some of their heroes is you're immediately taken back to your bedroom and your headphones or your speakers on your first stereo system, putting the stylus down on the record, and it takes you right back to like Whole Lotta Love or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we all do even now, isn't it? Especially the music that resonates into us when we suddenly grasp the importance and the power of music. And for me, it started obviously with people like the Beatles, who I was mad on instantly. But then as I got a bit more sophisticated in my choice of music, all of these other great artists started to appear on my turntable. And yeah, it's like Priest now, as we've said many times, Jonathan. All of our glorious fans, so many of them have been with us on the same trip. So when we blast out Breaking the Law, we're suddenly back in the 80s, We blast out The Painkiller, and it's 1991 all over again. We do Turbo Lover, and it's 1986. We do Victim of Changes, and we're back in the 70s, and some of us go way back to the 70s. So the timeline of music that is like a thread in our lives, it keeps us all so connected, especially when you see your favorite band live and suddenly they play that song and oh my God, you're like 18 again, or you're 20 again, whatever the demographic is. But that's the power of music. That's why it's such the most incredible thing in all of humanity.
Well, especially when the band plays and performs a song just like they do on the record. They don't change it. It's just, I think some bands are like, you know what? I know we've played this 4,000 times this year already, but you bought a ticket to see us play in concert. We're going to play this song perfectly.
You're entitled to it. It's your responsibility. And Breaking the Law, we played it 1,000+ times, I don't know. But every time you play that song, you're playing it for the first time at that moment. And I still get the most massive thrill when Scott counts it in. Da, 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 da. And the look on people's faces, it's just such a rush, man. It's an incredible commitment, emotional commitment that you've made with each other, even in just that one song, you know. So yeah, you've no excuse not to play the material that your fans gave you the life in your metal with.
We're speaking with Rob Halford. Of course, the new book is Confess, his autobiography, which is fantastic. Everyone should go and get it. You can get it at Amazon.com or wherever you buy your books. There's so many amazing stories in here, Rob. One more I got to touch on. Queen Elizabeth, you met her. You sort of hung out with her with Cilla Black, but no one prepared you.
No, because I don't think any of us were prepared. It was a celebration at the time for 25 years of British music. And because there were so many people, you couldn't bring a friend. So we were all turning up and nobody knew who was going to be there. But it was like everybody, you know, from all walks of life in music. You know, Brian May from Queen and a couple of the guys from Status Quo, two of them snuck in, and Kate Bush. And then I see this lady in the corner sitting on a sofa by herself. I'm like, oh, that looks like Cilla Black, you know. And she's sitting there and I'm looking, and 10 minutes she's still by herself. So I'll just go over and introduce myself. And she was just fabulous, a British national treasure in music. And we just hit it off. We hit it off, you know. We were joined at the hip for the rest of that night. And then the equerry, when the Queen comes in the room, the equerry comes in and says, would you like to meet Her Majesty? And Cilla had been to the palace quite a few times in her career. But I said, oh yeah, that would be great. So the Queen comes over. She's a very diminutive figure, but she just exudes this, my God, it's Her Majesty the Queen. She's so serene and calm and graceful, but you can sense the power, because the lineage in royal history goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. And she's standing there in front of me, and she's got holding a drink. This is I found out from Cilla. She always holds a drink like this, so you won't attempt to reach out and shake her hand. Well, of course, yours truly, breaking the law. I'll reach out and she very, very graciously offered me her hand, and I just gave it a little bit of a shake and I bowed the head. And such a pleasure to meet you, man. She said, oh, are you having a good time tonight? Yes, it's just wonderful. It's just great. And then she noticed that there isn't any music playing. I've just realized we should have had some music in the background. And yes. And then Cilla goes, he's come all the way from Finland, Your Majesty, because priests were on tour. And she goes, oh, yes, Finland. She goes, what kind of music do you play? And I go, it's heavy metal. And she goes, oh, heavy metal. Why do they play it so loud? I'm like, oh my God, the Queen has just said heavy metal. Why do they play it so loud? We have it so loud so we can bang our heads, Your Majesty, you know. And that was that. And then as she went to walk off, I went to try and shake her hand, and then Cilla digged me in the ribs. Don't shake hands with the Queen. You're not supposed to.
You don't shake hands with the Queen.
Sorry, Cilla, I had no clue. I'm just a mere lad from the Midlands, you know. But very surreal, but magical metal memories.
Well, it's Rob Halford from Judas Priest. I'm going to hold up the book again. It is right here. Confess. You can get it at Amazon.com or wherever you buy your books. Last question, Rob. Is the new album done?
Which for Priest?
Yeah.
No, we still got a lot of work to do. You know us. We really put our lives into every record that we make. We had a great start. We've got some really, really potent, powerful songs. You know, Firepower was just so gloriously accepted by our metal maniacs all over the world. We've got to really step it up to you know, cover that experience, and we will, and we are. So we've got a ways to go, but like I always say, it'll be ready when it's ready, and it will
exactly.
Be.
Hey, Rob,
Jonathan, it's been great, man. Such a pleasure.
Honor to speak with you. I listen, man. I read this book like so fast. It was like I just ate it up like that. It was such a compelling story, and again, I think it's a biopic myself. I mean, I hope other people are watching and listening too, because it's so It's so compelling. It's just, and your story is different. It is not a typical rock and roll sort of biography by any means. So much else has gone on. So congratulations on the book. We can't wait to hear the new Priest album. Maybe this year, probably 2021, who knows. And in the meantime, stay safe and happy and healthy. And again, congratulations, Rob.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's been great Zooming with you, heavy metal Zooming. And I'll see you next time I get into your part of the world. Thanks to everybody. We love you guys. Keep the metal faith.
This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.